Welcome to Will's Workshop. I'm Will and this is my new workshop. Today's video we're going to talk about how to make an SCA-Legal sword. Now, what are you going to need to make an SCA-Legal sword? First, let's talk about what it's made out of. This is rattan. I'm going to post a link in the video description to a really great source for rattan. You should be able to get a 9-foot section of this stuff for roughly $20. It's really not bad. Out of a 9-foot section, you ought to be able to get at least 3 swords, okay? The other thing you're gonna need is a hilt, and I highly, highly, highly recommend these basket hilts right here. They're made out of really, really strong, impact resistant plastic, I want to say. They're lightweight, they're handy, and the best part, for our sport, which is what we do, it's a sport, it provides amazing coverage for your hand, and it adds next to no weight to your sword. It's a really great option to protect your hand and allow you a lot of freedom of movement as well, which is important when fighting. So I will also post a link to where you can buy these guys. Some markers are going to be handy for marking out measurements and whatnot. You're going to want some of this threaded packing tape. What are they? Strapping tape, duh. So you're going to want some of this stuff, local Walmart, hardware store. You can find it pretty much anywhere, so you're going to want a roll of that. You're also going to want 2 different colors of duct tape. I'm going with black and white, and I think it's quite obvious I need to buy some more black. And then, to put a tip on this sword, you're going to want either one of these guys, which is a pre-made foam tip. Again, link in the description. If you don't want to buy these, although I'm pretty sure they're like 50 cents a piece or something, probably less. But if you don't want to buy these, you can also just buy a camp roll, again, from like a Walmart or a Target or somewhere like that. Look in the camping section, and you'll find a blue foam roll. Buy one of those for like $10, and all you'll do is you'll cut little circles out of it. You'll need about 3 circles of the blue camp foam to equal one of these, but out of that one roll, you'll make 100 swords at least. So that's also an option. Outside of that, the other thing you're gonna need is basically a decent pocket knife, something that you can carve the wood with. Now, I've got a shop, and when I'm shaping my sword, I'm going to be using my belt sander here. But I have totally, absolutely 100% made swords with just a pocket knife as my tool for shaping. So that's what you need. Let's get into making it. Okay, guys, so now we're going to talk about the concept and the construction of the sword and how we go about doing it. And why we do some of the things that we do. So the first thing I want to mention about the rattan is that SCA Minimum Width, so we're talking the diameter here, is 1 1/4 inches. The link that I'm going to give you guys for the rattan supplier, if you just tell him SCA Minimum, he knows. He's going to get you exactly what you need. So, that being said, let's talk about the length of the rattan. How long do you want to make your sword? What I tell all of my new guys starting out is you want a length that you can swing down at your side and not hit the floor. I want to be able to swing this freely at my side, and if I were outside, I want to cut the grass with it. I want to just hit the grass. I do not want to hit the ground and ground out. So that's a good size. For me, we're talking another good way to measure, fingers outstretched, and then the end of the sword is roughly where your nipple is. So that's another decent way of measuring how long your sword should be. And it's going to be specific to you and your body type. So it's hard to say, oh, 32 inches, that's how long. No. This is your weapon. You want it to work for you. So there you go. Once you cut it down to the length that you want it, it sounds quasi-mystical, but the stick will tell you which end should be the handle. And it does, it just sounds mystical and crazy. But hold the stick and swing it at your side, right? And just get a feel for how it naturally wants to move. And then flip it and try the same thing holding it from the other end. And you'll know it won't feel right from one of the ends. So for me, this is the end I want my handle on. All right? So now we have to mark out where the handle's going to go, because I can't just start here. The easiest way I have found to do this is to go ahead and grab yourself a marker, grab your basket hilt, and you're just going to go ahead and slide the sword into the basket hilt, like so. And you want the bottom to line up right there, flush with the bottom tab. And you want your hand to be roughly in the middle. You want to make sure that the handle is such that when you hold your sword, you're not holding it up here. You don't want your hand to be touching the plastic of the basket hilt. Otherwise, if you get hit in the basket hilt, that energy transference is really not going to feel good. So you want to make sure you've got clearance on the inside of the basket. All right, so here we are. Bottom's flush. We're just going to hold it there. I want my hand, again, right in the middle. So I'm just going to mark the top and the bottom. Right like that. You see those little marks there? So that gives me my handle height and position on my sword. From these two marks, I can pretty easily just take them all the way around, trying to keep them even. This doesn't have to be perfect, it's not an exact science, but we just mark a line all the way around the rattan to mark where our handle is going to be. Now here's the other weird mystical nonsense, but I swear to God it's true. As you're testing this out, as it is, just a round stick, you're gonna get a feel for which end or which side, as though there were sides on a circle. But you're going to get a feel for how the stick wants to move and where that stick wants to go. This one wants to go that way. So looking at my hand here, that's telling me I want my front to be here and my back to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that on my handle, front and back. So, like I said, squiggly line for the front. So, if that's my front, that's my front blade. We're fighting with double-edged swords here. That is a very squiggly line because I'm trying to do this and show you at the same time. But that's going to be my front, and this is going to be my back. Okay, so let's talk about how we construct our handles. Just so happens, I have a few swords here that I can show you what I'm talking about. So, this is an Albion Templar. This is a real sword. This is as real as it gets. And look at that handle. Right? It is basically an oval shape. Well, you can't see it through the pommel, but I think you get the idea. It's an ovular, it's not round. There's obviously a flatter part to the handle of a sword. And when you hold the sword, it's shaped that way so that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt when you're using it where the blade is, right? If I held the sword this way, one, that feels weird in my hand, and two, I'm going to hit people with the flat. I want to hit them with the edge. So this oval-shaped handle tells me exactly where that edge is and allows me to use the sword properly. So, all of that to say, oval-shaped handle is a good way to go when you're shaping the handle on your SCA sword. Like I said, you can do this. You can do this whole thing with just a pocket knife. Here's what you want to do to the rattan to prep it, okay? You're going to notice that there are these protrusions here. You want to knock those off. Easiest way to do that with a knife is to just hold your knife flat along the rattan and slide it away from you. Always away from you. You do not want to be sliding this knife towards you. But as you do that, you can see that it's chipping off that protrusion there and smoothing it out. Right like that. That's what you should end up with. Now it's smooth. That's good. The other thing you want to do is at the tip, we don't want this hard edge. So you can take this, and this is one of the few times when it's kind of okay to pull the blade towards you, but hold the knife in your hand like this, and we are just going around the edge here and rounding off this hard edge, okay? Just round it off and make it as smooth as you can make it, all right? So something, focus, something like that. Now okay. We just have to shape the handle. And I'm not gonna lie, with a pocket knife, it's gonna take you a while, all right? The only tip I have for that is to take your time, okay? Do not rush. Go little by little. You can always take more wood away. You can never put wood back. I have a belt sander, and I spent enough years making these with just a pocket knife that I don't feel like I want to do that again. Let me get to work. I will be back in a flash. Okay, now that we've got our handle shaped and all the excess trimmed off, we've got our tip rounded. I went ahead, I'm sure you saw in the time lapse, I went ahead and rounded the pommel too, just for aesthetic purposes. Got a nice handle on here. It feels, I can already tell where my blade is on this sword. Really nice. Now we want to add the tip. So, again, link in the description. We're going to take our strapping tape and tear off about a foot, a little bit more than a foot. And then we're going to take and we're going to rip this into 3 equal sections lengthwise. It tears really easy this way, all right? So there's one. Handy to have a table to stick it on. And then there's 2 and 3, all right? Now, we're going to take our tip, and with this first piece of strapping tape, we're going to put the tip directly in the center of our strapping tape. See that? All right, easy peasy. Tip goes on the tip of the sword, obviously, and then we're just going to tape it down. I am pulling this a little bit, but I'm not squishing the tip very much. It's just enough, basically like positive pressure downward. Smooth it out. All right? We're going to take our other 2 pieces and we're going to crisscross this over top. Again, we're not pulling down super hard, just basically positive pressure. So there, right? Little off kilter X. Final piece of tape. Right down the center, like so. Bada bing. Right? Lovely. Now, we're going to take our strapping tape again and we're going to reinforce that tip. Try to make sure it does not get shorn off in a fight. This time we just have like a 6-inch piece of tape. We're just going to split it down the middle. And this wraps around. I want my first piece of tape to be almost to the top of the tip and just like a 1/4 inch overhang on the rattan here, right? And we're just going to wrap that, and this I am pulling nice and tight on this. And that just wraps around like that. We're going to take our second piece of tape, and with this one, we're going to move down a little bit so it's just a 1/4 inch on the foam tip and the rest on the rattan. And again, pulling this nice and tight. So now we've got a nice double, actually triple layer of strapping tape on the dividing line between the foam tip and the rattan. This should hold this on pretty well. Moving right along, now we move to attaching our basket hilt. So, I'm sure you saw this in the time lapse, but you'll notice my F and B are gone. So on the bottom of here, I have marked out with an arrow pointing to my front blade. So right like that. So that way I know this end toward the enemy. So it just slides into our basket hilt like this, making sure that the arrow is pointing toward the front. All right. We're going to grab our strapping tape. And we're going to tape this in good and tight. For this, again, I'm getting about a foot of length, only I am simply dividing it down the middle. All right. I don't know why, but I always start with the bottom. Kind of hold it with your legs. Make sure it's lined up perfect. And that just wraps around the bottom tight as you can. So there's one. And then we just keep wrapping over it with the strapping tape. Again, pulling nice and tight. This is some really strong tape. Pull it as tight as you can as you're wrapping the bottom. See that? Easy peasy. Now it's in there. That makes the rest of the taping job a lot easier. It's a lot more stable. So we're going to do the same thing. About a foot of our strapping tape. Again, divided right down the middle. And we're just going to wrap this top portion so that it sits flush against the rattan. Again, nice and tight. The strapping tape is nice and strong because of the threads that they have put in it. I don't know. But those threads make this tape good and strong, and you really, really want it strong on these particular points. Impact is going to put a lot of stress on these points on your sword. So good and tight is the key. All right. Now, we're going to candy cane this guy with the strapping tape. And the reason we do this is that the strapping tape is going to form a protective layer over the rattan, and the idea is it's going to help your rattan last just a little bit longer than it would if you didn't do this step. Some people say it doesn't make a difference. In my 15 years of doing this, I have tried making swords and skipping this particular step, and in my experience, the swords where I did that, they did not last nearly as long as the swords that I did do this step on. Careful with the tape; it's going to try to wrap up on you. So here's where we're starting. We're starting at the tip. We're going to just on a diagonal stick it to the top there, and then we are literally just rotating the stick in our hand and guiding the tape down in a spiral for the entire length of the sword. We don't want it to bunch up in any place. We don't want to inadvertently put padding on the rattan, because that's going to steal that nice crisp impact when you strike your opponent. But we are going to tape it nice and tight all the way down. And I guesstimated that length a little bit wrong. I'm going to need a little bit more to finish this. But before we finish it, I want to show you how we go about strapping it the other way. So we've got our spiral going in one direction, we're going to find where we started before. We're going to take our other piece of tape. We're going to start in the same spot, but we're going to angle it in the opposite direction. Now, as we spin the sword in our hands, you'll see it is starting to form a crisscross pattern down the length of our blade. So the tape wasn't quite long enough, didn't measure quite right. That's fine. I just tore off a new section and we're continuing the spiral. We want to continue this spiral all the way down and onto our hilt, and then finish it by wrapping over this section again. So we've got, find the end of the spiral there. We're going to pick back up where I ran out of tape, continue our crisscross pattern down the blade until we get to the hilt, at which point we just wrap it and wrap it and wrap it right round the hilt. So now, boom, wrapped good and tight around the hilt, crisscross pattern all the way up the blade, reinforcement at the tip. All right, we're in the home stretch here, I promise. So, black duct tape is the flat. This is the color I'm using to indicate the part of my blade. If I hit you with it, it's no good because it's flat. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get a length of this tape, and we want it just a little bit longer than the blade of our sword. So the easiest way to do that is just hold it against your sword. Let me bring this up here so you can see. So hilt to tip, right? Want it just a little bit longer. So we're just going to tear it off there. All right, so this is the side. So I'm going to roll this onto the side here, and this goes up the length of the blade on the side. Right, like so. So, smooth that down so you can see. It's on the side of the blade, nice and smooth, all the way up to the tip with a little bit of overhang there. With this overhang, we're just going to fold it over the top like so and kind of smush it down. All right? Now we're going to get another piece of black the same length and do the other side. I'm going to have just enough for this sword. Note to self, buy more black duct tape. Alright. Getting it flush with the hilt here. And right up the side of the blade it goes. Smooth it out. Fold it over. Little bit of excess up here, you can just kind of tear that off. Alright. Cool. What I like to do for the tip is I'm going to get, I'm going to get just a small piece of this black duct tape, just a little square of it, and I'm going to just plop that right on the top there like that. This is really just for aesthetics, but I'm going to plop it down on top and smooth it down on the sides here. Alright, So now we move to our contrasting color. For me, it's white. Honestly, I think black and white make some of the best sword colors for the SCA. I love it. So, for the white, we're going to tear off a piece that, again, is just a little bit longer than the sword itself. This time, I want this piece of white to be roughly 4 inches longer than the actual length of the blade. Alright, we're going to take this and we're going to tear this one straight down the middle. Alright, save that piece. What we're going to do with this is to mark out our blade. So I'm going to rotate my sword so I'm looking at the front, and we're again going to start down at the hilt. We're going to run this up the middle, over the tip, and down the back. We want this nice and straight. Alright? And then smooth it out. So this should be what you're looking at now. Right? We've got black on the side, white on the blade. Wraps up and over and back down the back just a little bit. Now we're going to take the other piece we had and we're going to do the same thing but reverse it. This one runs up the back of the blade, up and over the tip and down the front a little bit. Alright, now, for the rules of the sport, we have to clearly denote that this sword has a tip on it. You can make swords without tips, but why? So we have to mark out clearly that this thing has a tip. To do that, we're going to go back to our white here. We're going to peel off length of this, I don't know, what would you call that, 7-8 inches, something like that. Now, we're going to tear off a very thin piece. I want to say maybe a 1/4 of an inch wide. All right, hang on to that. We're going to tear off another piece, roughly the same width. Hold on to that. And what we're left with is a piece that's roughly 1/2 an inch wide. All right. So, with our super thin piece, we've already got a white mark going across the middle lengthwise. We're going to take our thin piece and we're going to go across, we're just going to make a T. All right? So now, on the tip, we've got this little cross pattern going on. Okay? From there, we're going to take our second thinnest piece. We're going to find roughly where our tip ends, and we're going to wrap this horizontally now over all of those lines that we just made. We're going to wrap it a couple of times, like so. We're going to grab our last piece of white, and we're just going to go over that same spot, but slightly down, like halfway on. So you see how I wrapped that? We're going to take this piece. Sorry. There we go. See how that's wrapped? We're going to take this piece and go about halfway up. And we're just going to wrap it nice and tight, like so. Alright, so there's our tip. We have clearly marked the thrusting tip. Now to clean it up, I'm going to grab this excess here, peel it up, and tear it off. Same thing on the other side. We've got the excess, peel it up, and tear it off. Tip is marked out, ready to go. Now honestly, that's all we have to do per the rules. We have clearly marked out where the edge of our sword is. We've got front edge, we've got back edge. That is all we have to do. Well, we also have to put a lanyard on it, sorry. But as far as the taping goes, we can stop there. I'm not gonna, because I like my swords to look good. So just for like some aesthetic tips here, we're gonna take the white tape, we're gonna tear off, again, about 7-8 inches. We're gonna rip this in half, and we're gonna wrap up where the hilt connects to everything, just to cover all those tape edges and kind of give it a cleaner look. So we're just going to wrap it around the hilt area here. And then with our second piece that we've made, we're going to start pretty much where the hilt and the rattan meets, and we're going to wrap back downward so that everything meets all nice and neat like. Again, this is just for aesthetics, all right? So now we've got this nice, clear demarcation. There aren't any like tape ends showing, and to me, I just think that looks better. I really do. To cover up this bottom here, I'm going to take the white again, same process. A little bit shorter, I don't need as much for this one. Tear it down the middle again. And we're just going to cover up the strapping tape. Again, you don't have to do this. This is purely for aesthetic reasons, but I like it. I think it looks neat and gives the whole sword just a cleaner look in general. All right, so per the rules, this is almost completely done. I just need to find a lanyard to put on guys, here. So the last step, all I did was I took a piece of paracord, cut it to length, and just tied it around the handle. That way, when you're holding it, put your hand in here, maybe give it a wrap, and now if I were to drop the sword, it's connected to me and it's not going to hit nobody. But that's it. That is an SCA-Legal sword from start to finish. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to try to trim it down as much as I can in editing. I hope you found this informative. Hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section down below. Obviously, share this video with everyone and anyone that you think it'll be helpful for. I'm telling you, you can do this in a college dorm room. I did it. I'm just lucky now. Later in life, I have a workshop that makes things quicker and easier for me. But yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and be excellent to each other. We'll see you in the next